I recently attended my first Latin Mass. It didn't go well. For years, I've heard from people, including my brother, telling me I should attend the Latin Mass. My brother had warned me for years about all sorts of shenanigans going on in the Vatican that sounded like a Malachi Martin novel. He warned me that much of the hierarchy had been corrupted. He sent me links about a massive crisis of faith in the church. To me, he kind of always seemed like the guy in the movie who swears he just saw aliens landing in the cornfield, and now he's run into town to warn everyone.
Me! Please believe me!
And I was always like, I believe you saw something. I've been around the Catholic blogosphere a while. I've seen a lot of what they call angry trads, rad trads, or tradlodites. I've seen them argue. They even argue with people who agree with them. They don't just argue about how many angels could dance on a pin. They'll argue over which kind of pin. I always stayed away from such arguments. I found these people to be extremely knowledgeable, but it seemed to me that they often use their knowledge to cudgel one another. They have quotations at the ready from papal encyclicals from hundreds of years ago. I've learned never get into arguments with such people. So trads existed, but sort of in another universe to me. But after a while, seeing how the church treated them, making it so difficult for them to find a mass, the way they're scornfully dismissed and ridiculed by priests, bishops, and cardinals, I must admit I found myself becoming trad sympathetic, and something funny happened in recent years. I feel like while I stayed put, much of the church moved left.
Where are you going?
I found myself frustrated with some of the same people as my brother, shocked by those in the hierarchy espousing the same cavalier attitudes to historical church teaching. I've written about this increasingly. Then I was accused online of being a trad. Ha, I thought. At first I thought they had me confused with my brother. But no, they were talking about me. Why? Because I thought marching a pagan idol into the Vatican might just be an apocalyptic-inducing bad idea. Because I thought the questions posed in the dubia might be worthy of an answer. I found myself doing strange things like reading Michael Matt of The Remnant and thinking, he seems sane. I read Taylor Marshall and wondered too about the wisdom of those who argued it was time for the Mass to adapt to the modern world. Anytime I hear about the church changing to adapt to the modern world, I get a little nervous. In fact, I found myself curiously siding with the traditionalists on many things, so eventually I thought I'd give the Latin Mass a try. Call me trad curious. It was a Mass. How different could it be? The parking lot at the FSSP parish was crowded. I'm pretty used to cruising into Mass and finding a parking spot a few minutes before Mass. This was a little new. Crowds at Mass? Who'd have thunk it? I walked in already feeling like I didn't belong. From the start it was apparent I was very underdressed. Jeans and a button-down. I looked around and everyone was in a suit or at least a jacket. Them. Me. All right, it's Mass. Calm down. You're Catholic, they're Catholic. Everything's going to be fine. I looked around and I was a little surprised to see all the young families. My parish is a little elderly. Okay, it's more like heaven's outpatient waiting room. I should also mention there was silence. I think they call it reverence. Most of the Masses I attend, it's like second grade classroom up until the moment the priest comes out. One issue that became apparent very quickly as Mass started was, I don't speak Latin, and I wasn't following along very well at all. I didn't know any of the responses. So I stood in back trying to read along. I didn't know when to kneel, stand up. I didn't know anything. So I hung back, leaned against the wall, figured no one would even notice me. When all of a sudden, a man in a suit stands up, walks to the back, and stands right next to me. What's with this guy? And when I say next to me, I mean really next to me. I'm thinking, he knows I don't belong here and he's come to check me out. He's spying on me to see if I know the responses.
They're on to me.
I'm thinking, is he here to intimidate me? Alright. I'm gonna ignore this guy. He's got nothing to do with me, even though he's standing about 4 inches away from me against the back wall. I'm cool. Focus on the mass. Come on, Matt. Focus. I'm listening to the priest when all of a sudden, another guy in a suit stands up from the other side of the church, walks over, looks at the other guy, nods, and then proceeds to stand right on the other side of me. I am not kidding. It was like Pesci and De Niro on either side of me. And I'm thinking, uh-oh. It's like Children of the Corn over here. I've wandered into something, and they want to get rid of the outsider. So now, I'm starting to size these guys up. This is what I'm doing during Mass. And you know what? I think I can take them. That's what I'm thinking while attending my first Latin Mass, the holy sacrifice of the Mass. To say that in my mind, I look like this. In reality, I would have probably looked more like this. Let's just say my mind was at DEFCON 5. I've got 2 people, clearly malevolent agitators, attempting to menace me into leaving Mass. Well, that's not happening.
The line must be drawn here.
Even though I have no idea what's going on in this Mass, I'm here. So I'm standing there imagining desperate acts of violence on both of our parts. My heart rate is up, I'm breathing heavily. Just as I convince myself that these 2 will present no problem to me physically, a third man stands up, walks over to us, and stands directly in front of me. What? 3? 3 guys? This could be a problem. I'm wondering, would I be the first Novus Ordo martyr? No, I'm standing there in Mass thinking about what would Aquinas say about a first strike tactic. But my theological ruminations were cut short when, all of a sudden, and the guy in front of me begins to turn around. Everything's in slow motion. Here we go. He's going to make a direct threat, tell me I'm unwanted here. Here it comes. He turns, looks me directly in the eye, and says, "Excuse me, you're standing in front of the collection baskets. Would you mind scooching aside so we could get them?" Oh, doing my best impersonation of a sane person, I stepped aside, and I didn't even swing at anyone. I very nearly had assaulted someone who used the word scooch. As my heart rate settled down, I paid a little more attention to the Mass, rather than adding people to my rapidly evolving enemies list. Standing there, I saw that the shape of the Mass hadn't changed. The focus had shifted, though. This was the Mass that most of the saints I've read about loved. I must admit I don't understand why the Church has spent so much energy preventing this Mass from occurring. It was done in the name of unity, but the Church has never been more divided. When it came time for communion, there was no sign of the 37 extraordinary ministers stationed strategically around the church, expediting the drive-through Jesus process. It took longer, but that was a good thing. Kneeling at the communion rail felt appropriate and allowed a moment or 3 to contemplate the enormity of the moment. The Son of God died for us, and allows us to partake in that sacrifice in a physical way. Afterwards, there was time to kneel and pray. After Mass, people lingered outside on the steps and the walkway, engaging in long conversations. Children ran about on the grass under the trees. Something felt right about all of it. I'm still not a trad, maybe trad adjacent. I share their concerns. I pray for the Church to refocus on Christ. I came away understanding why so many are so serious about the liturgy. Liturgy matters. How we worship matters. The moment Jesus is not the center of our liturgy, who are we worshiping? This experience has given me a great deal to think about. Don't tell my brother. My name is Matt Archbold, the author of American Antigone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please like, share, or subscribe.